Everyone loves a down and dirty budget build hot rod to go as fast as you can for as cheap as you can. Let's build something. And that is exactly where this comes in.
That's bad.
Well, I think today is the day that we can finally fire up this thing. It's been a fun build, but we are this close to firing this thing up. Last night, I roughly put together a bass tune that I think should run this thing, hopefully. And I know that there's a couple little things I have to do, like I have to make an oil block off for the side of the oil pan by the filter. I guess I can show you what I'm talking about on this other motor. Right there. I gotta make something for that to go on this one because this motor also doesn't have one. I'm assuming much like that one, it had the lines up to an oil cooler, so when they were pulling the motor out, it was just easier to unbolt that. So yeah, I'm just going to cut up some 1/8 inch plate I've got and make a quick little gasket. Yeah, I've got. I might even have. Thought I'd have something a little bit closer in size so I could save this, but yeah, I'm just gonna mark this off to the rough shape I need, cut it out. I almost didn't notice that, and that would have been a fun mess to clean up. As soon as this thing cranks over, it's just gonna start pouring oil out that. What else do I have to do? You can see I got the belt on it. Fits pretty good. For anybody wondering and possibly interested in running this setup, I imagine most of you guys are going to want power steering, but if you don't, to run it like this, a 71-inch belt fits perfect. 6 rib, 71 inch, fits awesome. And I was kind of worried about these ends possibly touching each other. This one's slapping around, but I think it'll be totally fine. I also got the battery mounted in the back here. You can see it there. I just took a piece of flat bar and bent it up, and that's what's holding it down right now. And I rigged up some cable to go from that to the starter, so hopefully that's good. And that's actually the battery that came out of James Brown. And it seems to still hold and take charge really well, so hopefully it's still good. but it is getting kind of old. And then, let's see, I mentioned that last night I whipped up a bass tune for this thing that, man, I hope works. And then I got those switches all wired up, so everything's good here. I just have to plug the ECU back in. I have to, I guess I don't have to make an alternator cable to go from the lug on the starter up to the alternator so that it can charge, but I'd like to just get that knocked out now while I'm thinking about it. This starter, the starter itself I think is good, but the post that the cables bolt to, the threads are kind of screwed up. So I'm not looking forward to dealing with that, because I know that the way this harness works, it gets its power from there. That's where it hooks to the battery instead of going directly to the battery. It ties into the cable at the starter. And there's two ring eyelets on that, and then the one from the battery, and then we're going to have the one from the alternator there. So it's a lot there. It would probably be better to have like a lug at the firewall that everything could connect to, and then like run the main battery cable to that, and then one to the starter, one to the alternator, and then the ones for the ECU there. But that's not how we're going to do it. So we're going to have to, hopefully getting that cable bolted up onto the starter is not a big deal. Yeah, and then I have to section the bracing out of the hood here, because I had the hood closed yesterday and I went to pop it and it was hitting the alternator right here so much that it was wedged and I couldn't pop the hood. So I had to like push down on it while someone else pulled the lever, and finally got it. So I'm going to get that cable made up, try to get everything bolted to the starter, plug the ECU back in, pray that I've got the tune close enough for it to fire up. I know that there's no coolant in it right now. There's oil and a filter on it. Oil's a little low, so I'm going to put some more leftover stuff that I have just laying around. Actually, I've got some old oil out of Jack right there, I think, that should be fine for this. So, like I said, we're super close. I'm going to get those things knocked out, and then we can hopefully hear this thing fire up for the very first time. All right, that starter was an absolute tragedy to get together. You can kind of see up there. This is the hole we had to work with to get the starter in and out. And typically, it's easiest to let the starter be down here, connect the wires, finagle it up into place, bolt it up. Easy. Not in this situation. So everything was so tight down here, and I tried multiple different ways. I'm sure someone's going to comment after the fact some super easy way to do it. Like, oh, if you just fucking go through the middle of the engine, you can bolt the starter right up perfectly. Why didn't you say that a couple days ago? So I couldn't physically get the starter up in place with the wires connected. Like, it just wouldn't fit through the gap, which meant getting it kind of loosely started in place and then do one of these deals to get to the cables. Not as easy as it looked. Kind of sucked, actually. Makes me hate this whole truck. It's going to be for sale as soon as I fire it up. No, that's probably not true, but it was really annoying. So there we go. That was cool. I got that done. Now there's two things left down here. I got to make that block off plate and hope that I have bolts that'll fit. I should. And then I've got to do a tranny cooler because I forgot about that. So I've got a couple of those laying around that I should be able to rig something up. Oh yeah, you guys like this to keep them from rattling? Just zip screwed a piece of metal between them. Theoretically, I hooked the ground cable up to the battery and we should be able to roll this thing over, which I really want to do, but I really have to make that block off plate first so I don't oil down the whole floor. So I'm going to get that made. I already showed you how I'm going to do that. Just cut out a piece of metal, make a gasket, and bolt it in place. And then I'm sure I've got like a small, just regular ass $20 tranny cooler laying around I can throw on it somewhere. And then we'll get this thing dropped down. Alright, so I abandoned the idea of making my own block off plate because I would have had to use two, cut out the middle of the one so the oil could flow around it. And I was just worried that not enough oil would be able to flow and it would cause like a low pressure thing, something like that. So I came up with something arguably worse. I took the block that had these lines to go up to an oil cooler, and it had this plug on the side, so I was able to just like smash and destroy the guts of this like bypass and get that out of there so it's all nice and open in there. And I was going to drill and tap it for some plugs. Didn't have any of the right size, and it was not wanting to drill out to these 3/8 plugs. Like, it was just putting up a fight. So the part that's arguably worse is I found some vacuum caps, put some bolts in there. The vacuum caps were snug, put some bolts in there, and then just pressed them in. They are really tight. I mean, it's basically like having an O-ring there on two different planes. So this is the one I'm worried about because it wouldn't go. I don't know. It'll probably be fine. I mean, it's not like this thing's going to make 80 pounds of oil pressure. It'll probably have 40 to 60 cold. Hopefully no more than that. So if it does leak, this will at least slow it down while we get the thing running. Then I had to come up with bolts for it, because when I was thinking about using the plate, I knew that I had a bunch of like these for holding down coil packs, but they're not long enough to make it through there. So I ended up finding the studs that hold the throttle body on, and gonna stud it. Should work good. And then for the gasket, I thought I had some more gasket material. I'm just in rough shape over here. I thought I had more gasket material, but I don't, so I'm just going to silicone it. And like I said, it's not gonna be perfect, but it should at least slow the oil down so we can fire it up for a minute. All right, got the block off plate bolted up. Gonna let the silicone sit up for a little bit longer. And I forgot about my light in here. That's a smooth move. Don't know how long that's been sitting there. Battery looks pretty dead. And I have the tranny lines looped for now. Didn't feel like trying to permanently install anything when I'll probably have to run some sort of tranny cooler up here. So now we can hook up the battery, check for any electrical leaks, and see if anything starts smoking. And then we'll probably start with just rolling it over, make sure everything sounds good. I do still have to put oil in it. Thanks for reminding me. And if everything rolls over nice and easy, there's no coolant in it. I think I said that already. If everything rolls over nice and easy, then I'll probably get a couple gallons of fresh fuel, because I think the tank is empty, and then we can try and fire it up. All right, you guys watch for smoke. I'm gonna start hooking the battery up. All right, we all good? Yeah, I think we're all good. Let's put a couple quarts of oil in it. What does Derek call this stuff? Engine spin, make it happener? It wouldn't be an issue if we overfill it, because I'm sure a lot's going to end up on the floor. So judging by my measurements there, we need all this. Let's see where we're at now. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're good now. We got plenty of oil. Plenty. Not plenty, we got plenty. All right, let's see if it spins over. That battery should be charged. All right. Oops. Forgot about the brake leak. We're in park. All right. See if we got a fuel pump. Oh yeah, sounds like we got pressure too. Wow. Let's check for leaks. Oh, I don't see any leaks yet. Maybe it just hasn't dripped down to the floor. Huh. I guess, sounds like we got fuel pressure. I'm hearing something. sure hope I'm not hearing an injector just... What the fuck am I hearing? I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's got to be the fuel system, like vacuum in the fuel system or something. That was the craziest thing I've ever heard. We're going to ignore it though. I'm really hoping that all the injectors are good. This came off an engine that I think was running not super long ago. Because remember, this intake's different than the one we started with. So... I'm gonna put you guys on the tripod. Let's just try and fire it up. Sounds like the fuel pumps aren't picking up fuel anymore, so I think we're out. But yeah, boy, she wants to run. Yeah, it sounds like the fuel pumps aren't picking fuel up anymore. Like, you can hear the tone change on the fuel pump. Like, it'll go wing as it starts to get like a load on it. Well, that's good. Oh, that's good. And like I said, I'm kind of guessing on the tune right now. Because the thing that sucks about HP tuners is you gotta, unless you've done it a ton of times, you have to set up like a base tune. You're just kind of guessing. Once you get it to fire up, then you can, kind of data log and see what it wants, see where you need to put things. But that first initial tune, I think, is always the toughest with HP tuners. Unless you've done it 900 times before and you know what to look for. But really, the only thing we really had to play with on this was just the VE table and the airflow, things like that. I got the idle cold set at about 1,000, 1,100, and once it gets up to temperature, it'll drop back down to 800, just to keep the RPMs up a little bit, keep the oil pressure happy. And it sounds like this thing's going to be loud, so I need to go get a couple gallons of fuel, toss in this thing, and hopefully fire it up. All right. Thought that tire was looking low for a second. So it is considerably later. You can see how dark it is outside. But got some gas going in it. By the way, this pump is from Harbor Freight. These ones freaking suck. Get the one from Walmart. It's cheaper, question mark. At least the same price. I think it might be cheaper. And it's so much better. Anyway, got some fuel in it. Made a small change to the tune. And I think we're ready to go now. Probably put you guys back on the tripod while I'm in here, and we can see if this thing's gonna fire up now. All right, come on, baby. Something's not happening. Oh, no way. No way. Okay. All right. So far, so good. I don't know for sure because I haven't like really crawled under to look or lifted it up to look. But man, when I first cranked it over there, you guys heard it just kind of stop for a second, and I was like, that doesn't sound good. We'll just power through it. It'll be fine. We'll just worry about that on the other side. And then I thought we quickly approached the other side, because what I thought happened was an injector was stuck open, filled the cylinder with gas, I rolled it over. It hit all that gas. I thought it'd been a rod, which is what I thought that noise was while it was running at like 7,000 RPM. And I thought it just kicked a rod out. I think the noise might have just been lifters. This thing's been sitting for a little bit. Lifters probably aren't pumped up. But I thought that because I looked under here and I saw all that mess. But I think what that is, because that is all kind of right in the center of the truck, I think that is just the line that I have looped for the transmission blew off. But it does run. And I'm praying to any God that will listen to me that the motor's not hurt. But it runs! We got a little bit of tweaking here and there to do, but it does run. I think I might have bent that pedal maybe a skosh too far, and maybe that's why it was idled up so high. I mean, no, that should be enough. There's probably a vacuum leak, which I think this should be plugged off. This should be closed, right? Maybe that, actually. Here, we'll plug that, and we'll plug that evap canister. Maybe this thing's stuck open. Yeah, maybe. A little smoky, a little smoky. So I'm going to just try to fire this thing up, see if, because that should be plenty. I'm gonna fire this thing up. Hopefully it's at a more respectable RPM. If it starts to run off again, I'm just going to kill it immediately. But, you know, gotta figure things out somehow. Yeah, it was starting to run off again. I don't know why, but I at least have a data log that we can work with. So, the truck runs, it's alive, runs kind of like shit, but we can get that figured out, hopefully. Yeah, I'm hoping that's all just tranny fluid. We'll get this thing lifted up real quick and check it out. Yeah, still, I'm hoping it's just really loud lifters at higher RPM. But man, something does not sound thrilled. Check to make sure all the arms of the hoist didn't get moved or bumped, which this one did, so I'm glad I checked. There we go. I'm really hoping that we don't see a window in the block. That'd be a little bit of a bummer. If that is what we see, then luckily I've got another 6.0 right there. But yeah, it would be nice to... I'm pretty sure that's all tranny fluid. It looks mostly transmission related. Oh yeah, it just blew it right off. That's my B. Yeah, there's no oil here, so I'm not even gonna bother worrying about that anymore. And I definitely don't want to run it anymore with a dry transmission. So luckily it blew all the tranny fluid on the exhaust, so we all know that transmission fluid is not highly flammable, so we'll be fine. But it does in fact run, just not very well. But that's what happens when you build a car in just a few weeks. So that's definitely where we're going to end it for today's video. It is freezing out here, and obviously there's not really much else we can do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. If you haven't watched any of the build series leading up to this, go check them out. There's like 9 or 10 videos on this thing, just slapping it together real quick over the last few weeks. The whole idea of the build is to do a cheap thrills challenge. You know that. We're kind of doing our spin on the 1994 Hot Rod Magazine Cheap Thrills DART. I think this thing should be very capable of going 12s or maybe a little faster, because this thing with driver should be less than 3,100 pounds, and we should be making plenty of power with the cammed 6.0. Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder, I'll have to pull the valve covers and check. I wonder if it immediately snapped a valve spring. Maybe that's what that noise was. I'm pretty sure that noise was lifters, but you know, those eBay valve springs, it could have just immediately torqued one. Anyway, like I said, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you guys for subscribing, clicking the bell to get the notifications. First link in the description is any merch if you want anything. Snake Eater Performance and Shipbox Supply. If you need a discount for them, use code Snydertron. Get 10% off at Snake Eater, 5% off at Shipbox Supply. Have a Merry Christmas. See you guys next time.